All right, guys, episode 93 with Seth Watts. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive, and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Broken Tine studio right here in Clark Fork, Idaho. We are continuing on lots of the conversations that we've been having lately, guys, with all the issues that has been coming up with bear hunting bans and bear hunting cancellations and predator hunting bans and everything going on. I thought it would be really cool. I've got a really cool dude lined up today. He's on the line now. Seth is a big-time bear hunter based out of Northern California. In fact, we were just talking before I hit record, and apparently he's been sneaking through my neck of the woods, and we didn't even know it. So we've got plans lined up for next time that happens to get together. But Seth Watts is on the line. Seth, how you doing, man? I appreciate you coming on.
I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me.
Man, I am, like, as the intro music was playing there, I'm like, damn, I wish I would have known you prior to you heading over to that area. I don't want to say the name on air here, but where you were bear hunting, we could have hooked up and got a beer, or I could have tagged along and taken pictures and recorded an episode, whatever, man. I'm blown away you hunt up in this neck of the woods.
Yeah, I've been heading up in that area for the last 2 seasons.
Have you? Are you coming up this season, or are you on hold with that?
I'm not planning to. I'm going to do a spring bear hunt in Idaho this year.
Are you?
And if I can tag out early, I told my wife, I'm already halfway there. I'll just head to Montana.
There you go.
Especially since they changed the rule up there that you can buy a tag and hunt the same day. Is that true? I think that's what they did in Montana.
I've heard that, but I can't confirm it one way or the other.
Yeah, either way, I'll buy one on the way there and then hunt the next day, whatever the case may be. But
yeah, there you go. Just
I figured I'd try a new area this year. I'll definitely be back to that area. Just might not be this year.
Are you when you're hunting in Montana? Are you can they bait over there? I don't really know how they.
I don't think they cannot bait. As far as from what I know, you can't bait in Montana.
So it's more
this year.
Like a spot
this year,
stop.
I think they can hunt with hounds, though. I
yes.
think that did pass, but no baiting.
Yeah.
Because I know a guy that I met in Montana the last year that I was out and he goes to Idaho to bait.
Gotcha. Baiting is a lot of fun. But yeah,
that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do in Idaho this year.
Yeah, you won't regret it. It helps you be able to be very choosy about what you're going to shoot. And I'm talking kind of out my ass. I've never actually shot a bear, but I just started bear hunting, and it was just awesome. I sat there and watched the barrel, and all these different bears are hitting it at different times of the day, and you could just be real selective, and that's kind of what I was doing, and never found one that was worth it. I was a little short on time anyway, but anyways.
You must be pretty picky.
I'm not super picky, but these bears that were hitting it, 2 of them had cubs, and the other one that kept coming in was just like not much bigger than my retriever. So I thought, you know what? Yeah. I had bigger bears on the camera, but obviously they're big for a reason, and like knew I was there or something. So anyway, this season, redemption.
That's what I think is what people don't understand about baiting is, like you said, you get to be picky.
Mm-hmm.
You get the opportunity to make sure that it's not a sow with cubs.
Yep.
So it's kind of like the trail cam ban in Utah that just went down. Trail cams help you identify animals in an area.
Yeah.
And that's partly how I hunt. here in California. We can run trail cameras. I run cameras. This last season, the bear that I took, I had seen on camera. So immediately when I saw that bear, I'm like, okay, this is one of those bears that I consider a shooter. It's not a sow. It doesn't have cubs. And so it was an easy, because sometimes you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly.
And with baiting, it's the same type of thing. You can see what you're going to take without making a mistake, which I'm sure mistakes happen anyways, but it's going to limit those mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. And it just, I don't know, the hesitancy. I don't understand the whole, we can't use hounds. We can't bait for bears, or, all these different rules that come up that I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about. I'll never understand it. Like my buddy Nate, who's been on the show, man, he got a huge black bear with a trad bow last year. I'm still like super happy for him because it was just just a monster of a bear, and he worked his butt off, but he was baiting, and if anybody like ever discounts the level of difficulty as if baiting takes away the hunting aspect of it, has never baited. Like, it's hard. It's not easy work. Just getting the bait in and out of there is a pain in the ass. But anyway, we'll come back to all this, Seth. I want to let's talk about you and your background and how you grew up. I know you're in Northern California, and you I mean, your Instagram handle is all about black bears. What is it? A bear hunting pursuit or something like that? I had it pulled up.
Bear, or it's black_bear_pursuit.
Yeah.
Black bear pursuit.
So obviously you like black bear hunting.
Oh yeah. If I had to choose something to hunt, that's what I want to hunt. I mean, not that I don't hunt anything else. It's just that's the rabbit hole that I've gone down for the last few years.
Where does that come from? Why black bear hunting, and why is it like such a passion?
So I've grown up hunting with my dad, my grandpa, and just my family, and we always hunted deer. But I wouldn't say that it was like, we never scouted. It wasn't something I think we took too serious.
Yeah, sounds like my family.
And it was just a camping trip. Hey, cool. We get an animal. Awesome.
Yeah.
We never talked about hunting bears. It was always deer. And I think it was 2012. We were hunting an area for deer, and I had my first bear encounter. And we were hunting pretty low elevation, which if anybody follows me on Instagram, they know that's where I love to hunt.
Oh, really? We'll come back to that. I'm interested in your perspective on that one.
I know a lot of people are always like, man, you hunt that low, there's bears down there. I'm like, dude, there's a ton of bears down there. So we were walking the ridge top, and I came across a tree that was kind of coming up out of one of these drainages, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement in a tree, and it was a black bear. It was a super pretty color phase bear, and I'm glad I didn't have the bear tag, because I would have shot it immediately, because I wasn't very educated on bears, and at that point in my hunting life. So within a few minutes, she's taken off down the tree, and she left her, and then we saw the two cubs. So she took off, ran down drainage and up the other side. She's over there pacing back and forth, to get our attention away from her cubs. That was her way to protect them.
Gotcha.
So that kind of blew my mind that there were bears down that low. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking like around 2,000 feet elevation. So it just, from that point on, I wanted to know why they were down there, and I wanted to start hunting them. I don't know how to explain it. It just made me jump down that direction. I still enjoy hunting deer, but
it's one of those unexplainable things. Like you just get the bug for it, right? I mean, I've gotten that. Yeah.
It just lit a fire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'd never been that close. When I talk about when I'm walking down, I'm talking about like a little tiny ridge top that's steep on both sides, and the trees are coming up from the bottom next to me. And that's how close. I was 30 yards from her.
Oh, wow.
And so it just was, I'd never been that close to a bear until actually this year when I took. Yeah, exactly. and now when I'm walking, I'm always looking in trees because you don't know what's above you.
Yep.
And they're quiet. So that's just kind of how it went from there on. I just started thinking more and more and more about bears, what they do, where they live. Just that's kind of where it went.
I feel like you should be goose hunting, man. I can hear those geese back there.
they're next to this. They come into this pond where I'm kind of. Because we have a lot of wildlife where I'm, from Chico, California, within 20 minutes or less, I can be up the mountain and in wildlife and away from people. So I'm sure a lot of people that listen to your podcast, they probably know where Chico is, Chico State. We used to be the #1 party school in the country. But that's not why I live here. So it's just a cool place.
Is that where you grew up?
It's where I grew up. I did live in Idaho for a while. I lived in Idaho Falls. I don't know if you know where that's at.
Oh, yeah.
But I eventually ended up back here. This is where my family's at. So
yeah.
That's why I'm here now.
That's what I'm always a little perplexed about or confused about with the influx of, and I talked about this on one of the last episodes with Chris down there in California, with all these people like leaving California, which I don't blame them. I
don't blame them either.
It's confusing sometimes when it's like, man, everybody's like, and I guess I shouldn't say that because I did the same. I grew up in Utah, and left all my family still down there. My wife's family's up here in North Idaho, and we've been up here. I've been in Idaho more in my life than I was ever in Utah, but it's just interesting. So many people are so willing to leave their families and move out of state because of how things have gone in California. But you're there and you're pretty happy there, huh?
Well, that's kind of a trick question. Like I said, I love where I'm at. I don't like a lot of the politics and stuff that happen here.
Yeah.
It's not anywhere like it was back when I was in my teenage years or early 20s. It's not like it's totally changed. I'm here because I have two young kids. My son's 3 and my daughter's 1, and I want them to grow up with my parents, their grandparents.
Yep.
Like I got to grow up with my grandparents because they were a huge part of my life. So
yeah.
If my parents weren't here, I would move.
Sure.
So that's we will move eventually. It's just going to be a matter of when. And if my parents were like, hey, we're going to sell the house and leave, I'd be like, let's go. House is up. I got the sign already made.
Yeah.
So that's and part of me also is like, man, could I leave the bear hunting here? But that's why I fight for it so hard, is because it's so good.
Yeah.
And because I enjoy it so much. If it's gone, what do I have?
This might be a dumb question. As a California resident, are you able to, is bear hunting like an over the counter tag, or is it a draw, or how does that work?
It's an over the counter tag. But we don't have a spring season like we should. Mm-hmm. Right now I think Mike Castillo, Hunt Main Easy guy, they've got a petition thing going through the commission where they're going to view maybe letting us have a second bear tag for fall season, but keep the quota the way it is, but just allow more people to buy a second tag if they want to.
So there's no spring bear hunt in Colorado?
California?
Or I'm sorry, I know there's not in Colorado.
No,
California,
no,
sorry.
I don't think we've ever had a spring season here.
Oh, wow. Gotcha.
Remy Warren talked about it on his podcast last year, that if California had a spring season, California would be the #1 state to hunt. And that's a pretty big statement from him.
Yeah,
that's a pretty big statement from somebody that's an influencer. The population here is ridiculous.
That dude is an animal, man. Remy's a freaking animal.
He is.
Yeah. That's yeah, I did hear that. I'm not sure if I heard it from Remy or somebody or heard it on Remy's show or something, but I have heard that.
I'm curious to know if he took any heat for it.
I don't know. Because, Remy's one of those dudes, he's got so much credibility that it's like, why would anybody question him? He's got more hunting experience than like anybody I've ever seen. I don't know that anybody would give him, because he's not wrong. If anybody, I think that a lot of people have a misconception about California, that the entire state, and you actually brought this up before we started recording, that everybody there is, living on the beach and everybody's just a bunch of beach bums and it's all like San Francisco looking or LA looking or whatever. What people?
Yeah, I think we're all smoking weed and
and it's just all city and urban.
Government.
Yeah.
And hey, there's a ton of that. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but we're not all that way. We don't all live in areas like that. And that's actually an experience I had when I was in Montana. I made a couple friends when I was there, and they were really cool dudes. And we were talking, and they're like, man, you know what? You guys are not like the typical California, people that we would think. And I'm like, well,
because California,
how did you know we were from California? And they're like, oh, we saw your license plate. It's the first thing we saw. And I'm like,
everybody notices them. When you're in Idaho or Montana, the California plates stick out like a sore thumb, man.
Well, when I lived in Idaho, I was eating at a restaurant, and this lady that was serving us, she was, where are you guys from? And I'm like, what do you mean? We're from here. She's like, no, you're not. And I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, you talk different. And I'm like, you talk different. You
talk different.
It's like, we're from California. She goes, I could tell you guys just weren't from around here. It's like,
I like talking about like the differences between, California and Idaho. What's funny even is like North Idaho is totally different than Southern Idaho. Both like culturally and landscape wise, but actually that's what I was trying to get at with what people's misconception is, because there's a lot of tourists that come out of California or whatever, that what you were talking about, they could tell you weren't from around there. They kind of taint the California reputation, that when they come and they're traveling through our states trying to experience nature or whatever. But
it didn't help that my dad was wearing a shirt that said Idaho on it. She goes, people from Idaho don't wear those shirts.
That's true.
Yeah, well, that probably didn't help.
But what people don't understand about California that has never been there is California has some awesome country. I mean, there's some wild backcountry in California and some beautiful landscapes that it really like exemplifies or is a good standard bearer of the American West in a lot of ways. You don't ever think of it.
Yeah, if somebody was to come to the Chico area where I live, and you were to drive up, let's say, Highway 70, which goes through the Feather River Canyon,
mm-hmm.
you would not even realize you're in California. You would think that you were in, you would think you're in Idaho, or you'd think you're in Colorado.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, it's just gorgeous. Same thing with Highway 32, and it goes up to these beautiful lakes. It's just, and actually that's something I was talking to my brother-in-law, a little bit off topic, about hunting up. It's a D zone in California up into the Feather River area, because the country up there is brutal. It's granite, but big pines. It's just, it's just beautiful up there. I'm like, man, I would love to hunt up here. So
yeah.
I may get into a little bit of this year.
You should,
I'm not piping in that geese sound. So
no, I know. I was gonna say it adds. It's really bolstering your picture you're painting about California and the landscape there. You've got all these.
Not that many geese in this area, but
you've got all the honkers. I'm waiting for a shotgun to go off, but no, I've got. Yeah. I've got some unique perspective on California because of my time in the military. I went to boot camp down in San Diego. And spent some time at Camp Pendleton, and then after they sent me to North Carolina, they flew us back, my unit, to go to Bridgeport, California, which is like south of Reno a little bit on the California south of Lake Tahoe. What are the is that the Sierra whatever mountains range that is down there? I can't remember.
Yeah.
The Sierras.
Tahoe is beautiful.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
if you've been in that area, Tahoe, Lake Tahoe, that area I was just talking about, Highway 70, that's what that whole area looks like.
Yeah. And I spent a long time. We went they sent us to winter survival school down there in Bridgeport, California, which was a hell of a program. I don't ever want to do that again. But that's, when I say I have unique perspective, I think a lot of people that have never visited California, they've never seen that side of it, that side of California. Sure, they've seen pictures of Lake Tahoe, but usually what people think of is like Hollywood and San Francisco. And so I think it's good to talk about that kind of stuff sometimes and offer that perspective because, like you said, I think that there is a very
lot of people
loud.
probably think of Lake Tahoe as being in Nevada also.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, half of it is, and so I know
and
because
they've been getting pounded with snow lately.
Oh, I know. Wait, well, I mean, yeah. Anybody? I don't know. We have too. I don't even want to talk about snow right now. It's a sore subject in my life. But yeah, no, it's a great discussion topic, and Tahoe is split on that. I know because there's a night that I don't even remember that I spent in a casino on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe when I was in the Marines there, and they let us loose for a weekend. That was a bad idea. I want to get back to what you were talking about with your choice in hunting lower elevations. Talk about that for a minute.
Well, after that encounter with bears, it was just, I'd hunted up in the high elevations as well, and we always see bear sign. You see the bear crap. I mean, bear crap is probably the sign that most people look for because it's the easiest to see. There's a ton of other things out there that most people will just walk right past it. Like with the stomp trails. Yeah, so stomp trails I call them stomp trails. I don't know if that's just, maybe that's what people call them. I don't know, but it's just a trail that looks like, it looks just like human footprints. In fact, the first stomp trail I ever thought, or that I saw, that's what I thought it was. I'm like, somebody's been in here when it was wet. And, had their boot tracks, put these indentations in the ground. But the more that I sat there and looked at it, I'm like, this isn't a person. This is a bear. Mm-hmm. And so it's just a trail that they will walk on, not necessarily daily, but, and not just one bear, but multiple bears, and they'll wear their paws. They'll just wear it into the ground. Sure. In fact, there's some stuff on my Instagram that shows those trails and what they look like. And when I run cameras, those are trails I look for. And I have a couple trails that last year and the year before on this one trail I had 32 different bears in 30 days.
Oh, wow. Man, that's a lot of bears.
And then 5 or 6 regulars. Well, yeah, and then I'm like, that's why that trail is so beat, and just worn. And I couldn't believe it.
I'd be excited, man.
So that's something, that's something that I'll look for. The longer I, do it, I start noticing more rubs where, a bear will stand up and they'll pull on the younger pine trees and they'll rub on them and they'll actually bite the top of the tree, ultimately killing it. But it's, and then you can see the hair on the tree or even just the big pine trees they're rubbing on. So once you start to see those things, the more you'll notice it, or once you see it once you're out, you'll see it all the time, especially, here in California in certain areas where the population is just crazy.
Yeah.
So those are the two things that I look for. Obviously, the scat or the bear shit, whatever you want to call it, that's a plus as well. Because you know where they're feeding, so they're bedding by somewhere close. I mean, it's just
all those so things. No, that's true. When you're looking for, because you're just to clarify, you're hunting bears kind of in a spot and stalk kind of method in the fall. Is that fair?
Yeah, so from August, mid to late August is when archery opens.
Uh-huh.
And so you can hunt during archery. So the bear season here, when an archery season opens in, let's say, B zone or C zone or D zone, you can hunt bears archery. The X zones are a little different. It's kind of tricky. I know that sometimes when those zones open, the bears, you can't hunt bears in there. And I've asked Fish and Game why, and it comes back with different answers. Nobody can ever give me an answer of why. I think it's because it's such a premium tag. They don't want people in there. They don't want bear hunters in there disturbing the deer hunters. That's kind of what I've
Oh,
taken from
yeah.
what they've told me. But in the other zones, so when the archery season opens in that zone for deer, you can hunt bears.
Huh.
And then same thing with rifle. So from late August all the way until the end of December, you can hunt bears until the quota is met.
And
which hasn't been met in a long time.
Because what's the quota? Like
1,700.
1,700. Okay, so similar to, well, I don't now. All these states with bear issues going on.
It should
bear
be.
hunting
It should be
issues.
higher.
Yeah, it should be because there's like
And I
30,000
honestly
bears in California.
Oh, I think there's over 50,000.
There probably is. What I'm going off of is when that SB 252 came out last year from Senator Weiner down there in San Francisco. I kind of went neck deep into this situation, and that was what I was finding was everybody saying that to be safe as an estimate, 25 to 30,000 bears, but most biologists or whatever are saying that number is most likely super low.
From the biologists, and I talk to a ton of biologists yearly, multiple times, or just game wardens when you run into them.
Mm-hmm.
They say the bears in California are 500% overpopulated.
Yeah.
And that's, every one of them will tell you that. And so,
sounds
they don't do they don't do the research like they used to. So they pull the tooth. They don't even do that anymore. Some people I think it comes down to laziness too. Some game wardens will pull the tooth and some of them won't. And from all the bears that I've ever, taken in California, which isn't a ton, I've never even gotten the data back.
Oh, really?
From how old they are, and stuff like that. So I always take my tooth and I ship it to Madsen's laboratory in Montana to know.
And they
want to know.
Get you back. What's the oldest bear you've shot?
15 years old.
Gosh, I'm always fascinated with the age of bears, man. And how long they go.
And yeah, I never even thought about it until I killed my first bear. I'm like, man, I wonder how old this bear is, And the first bear I shot was 9, which is, I think that's pretty old. I mean,
yeah, heck yeah, it is.
And then the one that I shot 2020, he's 15, and his teeth were they were so worn down. I was like, I have to know.
Yeah.
And Madsen's laboratory will get you results in 90 days.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't even know about that.
So I'm
going to ship it off.
Send,
what does that cost to ship it off and have them analyze it?
$75, and they'll do 5 animals.
Wow.
So whether you do 1 animal or 5, it's $75. So I actually have teeth I'm putting together right now that from the deer we got this year. My nephew shot a nice 3x3. My buck, which he's just a big fork, but I felt like he was aged and, digressing type thing.
Yep.
And I'm going to send my bear, and I'm going to send a bear from Montana. I'll just, 5 animals and
yeah,
just to see. I mean,
even if you had just like a group of buddies, 3 or 4 of you that went in and paid the 75 together, you can all send the different teeth from whoever gets what,
Yeah.
That's super
what I'm gonna
cheap.
do with my nephew. I'm like, they're going to charge me anyway, so just let me take the tooth and we'll find out.
Yeah, exactly.
It educates you.
Yep.
Hey, what was that 3-point? When you look at that 3-point, it's going to help him later and me judge that animal or judge an animal like that out when we're hunting. Same thing with the buck I shot. Same thing with the bear I shot. The bear I took this year with my bow, or I keep saying this year, but 2021. I think that bear was probably, he wasn't as old as the other bears I've taken. He's probably 5, 6, or 7.
But that's still a pretty decent bear. I mean,
it was a mature bear.
Yeah,
It was just, you could tell by the teeth. I mean, from my experiences with my other bears and having them aged, now I look at this bear and I go, yeah, this bear's probably not as old.
I'm like terrified that I'm going to get sick of waiting for the right bear and I'm going to shoot some little dinker at some point just to get my first bear. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you know what though? Once you, from my experience and from other people I know, once you get that first one under your belt, it's like a whole different world. It's almost like you're not a pro all of a sudden. I'm not a pro,
sure.
But it seems like it becomes easier and easier to become more successful.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same with anything else you hunt, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just kind of get a feel for what they do and what their behaviors are and everything else. So no, that's awesome. Do you have any? I always like to ask this question when we're talking like tips and strategies for hunting. I don't care what the species is, but as you're a guy that obviously pays attention to the hunting community and what's going on and what people are posting and whatnot. When it comes to bear hunting, what are like the top 1 to maybe even 3 mistakes that bear hunters make that screw them over?
I would say probably the first one would be the wind. And that can go with any animal, really.
Oh, yeah.
But especially with a bear, I mean, if they wind you, you won't see them.
Mm-hmm.
So every situation I've been in, when I've successfully taken a bear, the wind is in my face. And that's always how I kind of planned it. I always positioned myself in a good wind, the direction's coming at me. And most of the time you can just sit there and watch them. The bear I took this last year, 2021, that bear had no idea I was there. And, a lot of people say bears are blind. Their eyesight's a lot better than you think.
Yeah,
but that bear,
I would agree with that.
That bear came and did exactly what I thought he was going to do. And I was able, after I slapped myself across the face a couple times, to calm down because I was shaking so bad. I made a good shot and, was successful.
Was this the one you got in California or with your bow?
Yeah, the bear I got this year, 27 yards.
And were you like in a tree stand or something, or?
No, I was on the ground.
On the ground? In a blind, or just kind of sitting in the brush?
Just sitting between some rocks.
Sweet.
It was an area I've scouted, and I knew how they came, and they came down to a water pond. And in those lower elevations, especially in August, there's not a ton of water. Mm-hmm. So I knew they were in and out of there. I knew the directions they would come from. And I just kind of set myself in between these oak trees and a couple. I'm not talking big rocks. I'm just a couple rocks that was kind of I could sit between and be comfortable and have an armrest just while I'm sitting there.
Sure.
And they'd come over that little hump and right down this little trail, and I could tell he wasn't the biggest bear that was hitting that pond, but for me, I had never taken a big game animal with my bow. And so he was good enough for my first one, and he's not a stud bear or anything like that. I'd say he's an average, maybe a little bit above average in my opinion. And so I was like, this is my opportunity. And with the fires that we were facing last year and all the land closures on Sierra Pacific, which is a logging company, they closed their land for access. Sure. National Forest was closed. So I was like, this is my opportunity. I better take it, and I better not screw it up. So
yeah.
I have tree blinds set up in the National Forest. So, but I've never gotten an opportunity to use them because the land the last few years has gotten closed. So I'm like, damn, so I have tree stands up there that I've never even really sat in.
Closed because of the fires.
I set them up. Yeah. So, and I try to, I'm by the book. If it's closed, I'm not going to go. It's just, I know there's other people that would be like, I'm going anyways, but I don't want to get in trouble. I want to lose my hunting privileges. So yeah. I just made do, and I'm like, I'm going to go hunt really low where it's, property owned by the state of California that was open.
That kind of gets me back to, we didn't really get into like your elevation That's always a good conversation topic, just because I think a lot of people have it in their mind, especially like people that are new to hunting. The big fascination is backcountry hunting and getting off the roads and getting way back and going way up the mountain, and which is all good. It's all well and good. But there is something to be said.
I would say the low elevation. Sorry, the low elevation area that I'm in, I would consider backcountry.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I'm just out of town. The area that I was hunting in, it takes 3 hours in your truck to get there on a dirt road. You know, you're not getting there in a 2-wheel drive. So you're way back there.
So you're back there,
away from people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I'm low elevation, you know, between, I would say, 2,000 and 2,500 feet is where I was at when I took that bear. And the thing is that I've taken 3 bears in that area within a quarter mile of each other.
Oh, really?
So I know they're there.
Yeah.
And so that's why I keep going back. In fact, my nephew took a great bear there. So we've taken 4 bears basically out of one drainage almost. One of them was out of the drainage a little ways, but they come down there because there's food year round.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton for them to eat there. In fact, when I ran cameras last year, they don't even hibernate. So that's why I think California has big bears. And not that other states don't, but I think in California, you know, in certain areas, the bears are going to go into what do they call it? I think it's called a torpor mode, where they're not hibernating, but they may go lay down for a couple weeks at a time.
Sure.
Get up, roam around, eat some food. You know, so there's the acorns down there. There's you know, the manzanita berries. I think there's choke cherries in there. There's just so much for them to just gorge themselves and get super fat.
And so by late summer, early fall, or whatever, is it one of those situations where there's more water and food down low, so you're kind of hanging down lower?
So usually those are the areas that I'm in late fall, mm-hmm. because I think those bears come down for the acorns, and you know, they just follow the deer when they're migrating. So in August, I wouldn't say there's a ton of bears, not as many bears. I think there's resident bears or local bears, if that's what you want to call them. Mm-hmm. But as it gets later in the year, they do come down there. But I do think the ones that may go hibernate more than others, I think they go back up in elevation.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you're right.
But the cameras I run down there prove that they're there all year.
Mm-hmm. No, they definitely are. I mean, it's again, when we talk about like misconceptions and what people get in their mind as almost a sort of fascination, because it's sexier to be like, okay, yeah, I went way into the backcountry, or I went to 12,000 feet elevation to find this mule deer or bear or whatever. There's a lot to be said for understanding that, you know, like where I live at 2,200 feet elevation or whatever here in Idaho, and I have bears on my property. I also can go to 6,000 feet elevation in an hour, and there's bears up there. And it's the same with anything like this. I've been whining about how I got my bow hung up in a shoulder-mounted camera this year, and it, you know, I had a bull screaming in my face at like 20 feet and couldn't shoot him because my string was caught up in this camera, and I've been whining about it ever since September. But the important part of that is I had spent the days before that going way into the backcountry, several miles back. And where this encounter happened, I was like 300 yards from the dirt road where I parked my truck, where I called this bull in. And it was not like crazy elevation. And this, I would call it like mid elevation. So I guess that the only point I'm trying to make here, especially to new hunters listening, is don't discount low elevation versus high elevation versus backcountry versus within a mile of the road. because you could find them anywhere.
I couldn't agree with you more on that.
Yeah.
You know, I watch a ton of YouTube videos, and let's just take for example, if you're watching Brian Call or Stealthy Hunter, every time I watch one of those videos, I'm like, man, I want to do that.
Yeah, there's adventure in it.
And you can do that. You can do that anywhere. You can do that here in California. There are bears at 8,000, 10,000 feet, and there are bears down low. But for anybody that's new, or even myself, I find most of my bears and most of my bear trails from walking logging roads. And in California, there is a ton of logging roads. So then I just start venturing off from the trails I find, or where I'm finding a lot of bear sign. Then I'll just start basically just make a giant circle, and keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Sure.
And just find out either where they're sleeping or what they're feeding on. And, so you don't have to, like you said, you don't have to go backcountry for 10 days to be successful. You can go up there in a pair of jeans and a flannel and kill something.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. That's one of the I guess common themes of this podcast sometimes is simplifying some of that stuff. And granted, when you watch Brian Call and Lampers go out 10 miles back and 10,000 feet elevation, and they're riding rafts down a river to get to their spot, and
that's my dream.
It looks like it's a
I
great
do
time.
that stuff.
Yeah, me too. I'd love to.
Those guys are animals, but they're what? I'm an average guy.
Yep.
As to oppose where those guys, they're kind of doing it for a living somewhat.
Oh yeah, totally.
I can't. So
I can't
if
either.
I was doing that for a living,
that's what I'd be doing.
I'd be in that raft. I'd be.
Gotta be a ball. I'd love to go with Lampers, man. That dude is just a quiet genius, I think, when it comes to hunting. But
I've kind of chatted with him over Instagram, just never like on the phone, but just messaging back and forth, and super nice dude, down to earth, willing to give information and tips and whatnot. I'm not trying to blow his Instagram up with messages, but
he's gonna hit you up. He's gonna, dude, quit advertising my response rate.
yeah, exactly. But Brian Call, same thing, down to earth. Those guys are, but they're in a whole different ballpark compared to what I am.
Yeah, their world of hunting is a totally different thing than our world of hunting, for sure. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking it at all. It's just because I like you said, I'd love to do that kind of adventure for going after a bear, but
like, I get what you're saying. People that are just wanting to either get in hunting and they're watching videos like that, you don't have to do that to be successful.
And I think that it complicates it in people's mind that are trying to break into hunting, like it's some huge level, entry level barrier or whatever they have to get through to become a hunter, because you see all that on those kind of YouTube videos. But the reality is, there's a lot of people that notch a tag on a bear that don't even head to the mountain until 2:00 in the afternoon after work, and get one in the afternoon or in the evening. And really,
bears are a completely different breed. I wouldn't say bear hunting is best in the early mornings. It's a late morning to evening type of animal. So
let's talk about
hunters,
that.
You could say, are lazy.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because I want to ask you about that. I set, like I told you, I set my bait barrel up. And like you, I had like this little rock cropping that I was hanging out in. And the only downfall, it's a great spot, but the downfall is the nature of the landscape around it, and the way the slope goes is the thermals have to be absolutely perfect with no wind. Otherwise, that spot is blown. And so I'm thinking about moving it to a different spot for that reason, because if, like I said, conditions are right, it's perfect. But the slightest breeze and I'm done. Anyway, the point is I set a camera on this barrel. And I was expecting, 6 a.m. bears and a lot of morning activity. And that did happen periodically, but the most common time was these bears were hitting the barrel between 10 a.m. and noon, and then after 3 o'clock. That was
exactly.
the heaviest traffic. Is there?
I would say that's pretty much on par with here. I would say 10 a.m. Maybe I'll go a little earlier.
Like
9:30 to noon, ton of bears, and then it's almost like they're on break, nap time, laying in the bush somewhere, taking a snooze. They get back up, and then they're moving around a little bit more, looking for water or whatever, 3 o'clock till dusk, till dark. And yeah, like you say, you get some bears come through there at midnight or 2 a.m. or 3 a.m.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I even had one nocturnal bear that this big fellow that would only come in about 3 a.m. And, not
that's
surprising.
Why he's big.
Yeah, that's why he's big. Yeah, the only one I had coming in, I had that 6 a.m. set of bears, but it was a sow with cubs. She'd come in every morning like clockwork between 6 and 6:30 or so. They'd hit the barrel and be there for about a half an hour and then take off. So other than that, it was like what you said. So I'm glad to hear somebody else talk about that, because I've mentioned it in the past and had people look at me like I was crazy. Scree gear. Have you guys checked it out yet? Scree is extreme mountain gear. The high-performance hunting attire, scientifically tested, backed by a great company. It's my go-to camo, and of all the discussion we have about all this infighting amongst hunters about what kind of gear they choose, it's okay to have a favorite as long as we're not fighting about it. And my favorite and my proven gear is Scree. Scree is spelled S-K-R-E. It's kind of a play on the word from scree rock found at the bottom of a cliff face or something like that. And they changed the name. And Scree gear is a complete layering system for all terrain and conditions. Gear designed to adapt to the weather. It's rugged gear, and it's all backed by a lifetime warranty. One of the things I really like about Scree is their VIP sizing and exchange program. Order the wrong size pants, they don't fit right, send them back. They'll send you another pair. It's all on Scree's dime. Guys, it's a great company. Check them out at screegear.com and use the promo code The Western Huntsman for 15% off and free shipping. Hoffman Boots is another show favorite right here at the Western Huntsman. There's lots of good boots out there. There's a lot of bad boots out there too, but Hoffman is a proven system that I've been using for a few years. Actually, I've been using them for close to a decade now. And I love the company. I love the story of the company. It's like a family of shoemakers, and it's just a great North Idaho story. It's a great American story. They make a great boot without breaking the bank. Check it out at hoffmanboots.com and use promo code Huntsman10 for 10% off. Don't forget, Phelps Game Calls is my go-to call company. You guys know it. I've been using Phelps for a long time. They're the oldest sponsor on this show. I'd say the flagship line of calls that they have is definitely geared towards elk. And what a great job that they do. But don't forget that Phelps Game Calls also has a full line of like waterfowl calls, predator calls. There's things that you can check out on the Phelps website that might surprise you. To include something that is coming up quick for us hunters, which is spring turkey. And I don't know how many of you are into spring turkey hunting, but man, is it a ball. It's a riot. You got to check it out. I love the black bat from Phelps Game Calls. It works very well for me. It's a great little read. And try out the blacktail in distress call when you're hunting bears. I'd love to hear if somebody calls one in that way. I've tried it a few times with no luck yet, but we got a whole new season coming up, and it's coming quick, and I'm going to try it again. So check out phelpsgamecalls.com. Use promo code Huntsman10 for 10% off. If you check out the westernhuntsman.com, you are going to find anything from t-shirts to Tacticam gear, and all of that stuff. A portion of those proceeds is going to go towards conservation and fighting against the anti-hunting movement. Plus, you'll be sporting a cool t-shirt that says a Western Huntsman. And now, I'm not the greatest t-shirt designer in the world, but I do have a friend that is, and he helped me put together a couple of really cool t-shirts on there. They're up now at thewesternhuntsman.com, and you could check it out. And guys, it supports the show. It helps me pay for all this equipment to get these shows out there. And to top it off, we're going to help fight against the anti-hunting movement. And there's a lot of new information and big announcements coming up regarding that from the Western Huntsman. So check it out at thewesternhuntsman.com and get you a t-shirt or get you some Tacticam gear. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the show. Here we go.
I've learned that from running cameras.
Yep.
I wouldn't know that. In fact, I think the year that I saw that bear up there in like 2012, I think after that hunt, I went up to do a bear hunt. I went up there at like 3 a.m., sat in my truck until it got a little bit light before I started, walking around. I look back at that and go, no wonder I didn't see anything. They're all sleeping.
Yep.
But
Yep. That's the thing that kind of pisses me off about these trail camera bans is who would you rather have out there hunting in the woods? Somebody who has set cameras and monitored the behavioral aspect of these wild animals and knows more about them, or somebody who doesn't know how these animals act because they've never had like this process of like, I don't care who you are. Having cameras set up and monitoring them will tell you more about what you need to do to become an effective ethical hunter than anything else. And so I struggle a lot. I have friends that are like they're pro this camera ban because they have this opinion that maybe it's too much technology. They never use cameras and they're still successful and blah blah blah. And quite frankly, most of the places that I have cameras are not the places that I end up tagging out, incidentally. So it's I get what they're saying, but I know a lot about bear behavior that I didn't know 2.5 years ago because of cameras.
Yeah, and so I had somebody message me when I did a little post on Instagram about the Utah thing. I had it was controversial. I'll post controversial stuff. I'll debate.
I noticed that, man.
And
we're
I'm
going to
not,
talk about
and I'm
that.
not. I don't want to debate, and I'm not going to be rude to somebody. But hey, let's just have a healthy conversation. And I respect whoever's opinion at the end of the day. That's your opinion. I respect it.
Yeah.
This is my opinion. I hope they respect it. So the trail camera thing is, and this one guy was saying, it's you're disturbing the animals. Okay, I get your your point there. But what disturbs them more? Should I go up into that spot every day and lay my scent down, and just me being there is going to disturb those animals more than my camera strapped to a tree? The technology, you're cheating. Okay, I can debate that as well. Then everything as a hunter that we use gives us an advantage. From the boots you wear,
exactly,
from the pants you wear, to the jacket, to the scope or the gun or the bow or the crossbow.
Where is that line? That's a great point. Where is that line that crosses from, a high-powered rifle is a technological advancement versus a trail camera being too much technology? Like where is the line? And I know that there is a line because like I would agree that using drones to locate a herd of elk is not fair chase. But using a trail camera, I don't think that the case, and I've seen people attempt this and they were very effective, but I'm not convinced that there's a case to be made against trail cameras. I just don't see it.
I don't think. I think we talked about this before we started recording. Those trail cameras are going to help you. They help me identify an animal.
Mm-hmm.
So while I'm sitting there hunting, maybe in that spot, I'm going to recognize, okay, this is the bear I saw, and this is a sow, and she's got cubs.
Yep.
Maybe those cubs are 200 yards behind her. So,
but you've seen her on the camera, so you know.
Yeah. So, but if you're not running that camera, okay, here comes a bear, boom, whack, dead. You just shot a sow with cubs, or whatever the case may be. It's not. I have a hard time struggling with the fact that it's cheating, or that it's not unfair chase. The drone thing, I get that. I think in California you can use drones to scout, but you can't hunt for 48 hours after using the drone.
Yeah, I think that's pretty consistent with a lot of the West. I'm not sure if it's exactly 48 hours or if you can even use them to scout. Everybody make sure before listening to little old me, check your regs when it comes to a drone. But
yeah,
and I get that.
But I mean, like, where is that fine line?
Where is the fine line? Yeah,
too much technology is Onyx. Too much technology
exactly.
Is Go Hunt too much technology because they're telling people, your draw odds or, whatever. Yeah. I mean, is a rangefinder,
is that too much technology? Yeah.
It's just kind of like this, the whole ban they're doing with the predators right now.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they took the trail camera in Utah, what are they going to take next?
Yeah.
Your rangefinder? Okay. And then what's after the rangefinder? Now you got to shoot open sights.
Yep.
Then what's going to be after that? Now you can't use a compound bow. And so that's what they're doing with the predators is they're going to start. They did it in California. You can't hunt mountain lions. Then what was next after that? Then they took hound hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Then they took bobcat hunting. Now they want to take bear hunting.
Well, they took bear baiting too in California, or was that is that something that was never a thing?
No,
I thought
I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think we've ever been allowed to bait in California.
if I was like a big name podcast, I'd have my dude look it up on Google. But I thought that there was like this progression of, okay, no mountain lion hunting, no baiting of anything, no. Now we're going to take away hound hunting, and now they're pushing. It seems like it feels like this is going to be an annual thing until they're successful in California to attack bear and predator hunting in general. Started last year with SB 250.
But once those species are gone,
yeah.
Do you think they're going to stop and not go? Now you guys can't elk hunt.
Well, I think that the point that you're making that I think is super important to ram home is the anti-hunting movement as a movement is a revenue driving cottage industry. So to think that, okay, they're satisfied, that the Humane Society of the United States is satisfied that there's no more bear hunting in California and they're going to shut up and dissolve, right?
Nope. They got an
Not
empty
the case.
pit, man. They're just going to keep – they got deep pockets and their stomach will never be full.
They have to generate that revenue. They have to keep this cottage industry viable for them. And that's how they do it.
They basically have to keep laundering their money because that's all they are.
Yeah.
They don't do anything to benefit wildlife. They're not doing studies, from what I know, and they're not doing anything but taking people's cash that are sitting on a couch that see a commercial on TV at midnight that says, please help save this animal, donate $25 a month, to save the wolves or whatever. They're robbing people and they're giving them false information. They take data, they skew it, and a lot of it's just plain false. And all of it, I guess I can't say all of it, but a lot of it's just flawed. They take it and manipulate it. They manipulate it to fit their agenda.
It is flawed. And without becoming too political, but since this is a hunting podcast, I feel like anybody that listens to this,
hole, man.
I feel like anybody that listens to this is pretty much a pro Second Amendment kind of person, right? It's the same concept, and this might help people relate it to the hunting versus anti-hunting movement. But it's the same thing. People that are against guns want to spew all this misguided information and what they call facts based in emotion because they feel threatened or they've created this revenue-generating cottage industry to gather or gain revenue and money from spewing this information on television ads and social media and all this other stuff to get people to donate. What they don't tell you is the cities in the United States of America that have the highest level of gun control also have the highest crime rates and also have the highest murder rates. And it's ludicrous to sit there and say that gun control works as if it's just an inanimate object. God, I can't even see. I get so mad, dude. I get tongue twisted and can't even speak straight.
So people are, they'll why do you need a gun? Stuff like that. Well,
yeah.
I'll share this quick little story. I live in a good neighborhood, and I wouldn't say there's high crime. I'm sure there's crime. I have a concealed carry permit, and I carry pretty much all the time unless I'm at work because I'm not allowed to at work. But I had a guy try to get into my house. This has probably been a month or so ago. My wife woke me up because we have one of those Ring cameras, motion sensor things. She's like, someone's trying to get in our cars. And so I jump out of bed and go out there. I ran out the door and I was like, I didn't see anybody. And then I ran back inside and I'm like, are you sure? She goes, he's down the side of the patio. And so at that point I'm like, all right, I need to arm myself here because I don't know. And I wasn't like seeking a confrontation. Like, we called 911. We did all that.
You'd have rather stayed in bed.
I looked out the door and here he comes around one of the cars. And I was like, dude, you got to get out of here. And the guy, I guess, and from what the police told me, was having a medical issue. But I didn't know that. So when I'm telling him back up, and he keeps coming towards me, eventually I shut my front door
Mm-hmm.
and went inside and was, my wife's on the phone with the police, but then he starts pushing on the door.
No kidding.
So I'm like, dude, and I told dispatch, I'm like, if this guy comes through the door, I'm going to protect my family.
Yeah.
And it ended up being that he did have he was having a medical emergency. They think he doubled up on his medication or something like that. But I didn't know that.
Yeah. You didn't know.
I didn't know, guy's over, 6'6". I don't know what his deal is. What's he going to do if he gets inside?
Yeah.
And grab my wife and grab my child. I didn't know that. So I think everybody in America should own a gun.
I do too.
Whether you hunt or not.
And know how to use it.
Watch the news. What's going on in America right now? It's scary.
It is. It's super scary, man. And it can happen anywhere. Like there's a lot of people in Idaho that have this false sense of security that because we're in Idaho that we're safe from like mass shootings and somebody going off the rails with a gun at a school or a mall or something like that. And it's just not the case. And so we're all susceptible to those kind of crimes. And like you said, I think every American should be armed and know how to use that firearm. And I think that it would stop a lot of problems and prevent a lot of crimes and problems that have arisen from people being just helpless and disarmed. It's just weird to me that people choose to live their life with this dependency that 911 is going to be there fast enough to save your ass. It most likely isn't going to happen. So the point being is what the Humane Society of the United States and other organizations like that, you have the Center for Biological Diversity, you have, and I talk about this all the time. PETA in my mind is just not a super credible threat anymore because they've just really gone to weird, strange levels that even anti-hunting activists can't even relate to. But they're still there, and they're still pose a possible threat down the road. These organizations use the same kind of propagated messages that these anti-gun organizations use, and it's stretching truths. It's emotionally charged opinions. It is playing to people's egos and emotions all at the same time, and I know that's a strange mix of the two, but it is. And these people dig in their heels because their egos have been placated by this propaganda, and you can hit them in the face with all these facts and all this information and data of proven decades of what is proven to be a successful and sustainable wildlife management system through hunting, and their egos have been fed so effectively by these organizations that they dig their heels in and still claim that it is wrong and hunting is outdated and hunting is wrong and bad for animals and bad for wildlife and Mother Nature should manage itself. All those are flawed arguments.
If Mother Nature manages itself, you won't have any animals but predators.
Oh, exactly. And
And hunting is humane.
Hunting is absolutely humane.
Those animals that we kill every year, they feed our families, they feed our friends. But it's also that animal more than likely would have died a horrible death of starvation or death by, another predator or, whatever the case may be. In most cases, which, obviously people make bad shots or whatever, but it's probably still more humane than, a mountain lion killing a deer or a boar, a male bear killing a sow's cub so that he can breed that sow.
Yeah.
Nature is
savage.
Cruel to each other.
Savage.
I mean, they're not all out there cuddled up in the same bed living, this pretty little life.
No, you're
it's
exactly
cruel
right.
out there.
It's super cruel.
So, the whole anti-movement just blows my mind. But what blows my mind even more is how hunters themselves cannot get behind each other and support each other, no matter where you live, what state you're in, no matter what kind of boots you wear or what kind of gun or bow you shoot. Who cares? I don't care if you hunt in Birkenstocks. If you want to run trail cameras,
shout out to my buddy Guy.
I don't care. I'm not going to stand up and be like, you shouldn't use that rangefinder, and I support that. That's too much technology.
Yeah.
If that's how you want to hunt, go for it. I don't care. Doesn't mean I have to. Or, it blows my mind. We got Charles, who started, Howl for Wildlife. I have plastered that on my Instagram, and not that I don't have a huge following, but why aren't these other companies, it's been shared, they've been tagged, why hasn't that site just exploded? I mean, it's growing every day. I'll get on there and I'll check it out. He's growing by the minute, but where's the big name companies?
Yeah. Why are there companies like Cabela's and Bass Pro Shops and these outdoor brands? I don't want to get, I guess, too specific going down the list, but there's a lot of truth to what you're saying and what you're talking about.
No, so when you name I think I tag Cabela's, Bass Pro, and stuff like that. So when you tag somebody like that, I get it. They don't just sell hunting stuff. They're selling canoes or selling whatever. So they don't want to go down and maybe lose business. But at the same time, people have a short memory.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's also
support the community that supports you. When there's brands out there that specifically are targeting the hunters, get behind us. And when I say get behind us, that doesn't mean write a check behind closed doors, because that's the easy part.
Mm-hmm. Make noise.
I want to see vocalism. And being vocal, dude, if I saw a hunting brand, get behind the hunters on situations like this and just spread the information to go to Blood Origins, go to Howl for Wildlife, and they'll put you in contact with who you need to email and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more likely going to buy their products.
Yep. Oh, me too. Totally.
Because they have my back. So think of how much money some of the companies could be generating just by making a simple post on their social media platforms that can reach so many people. I get it. Like I had people tell me, because I had tagged Vortex, and I own Vortex, and that's part of the reason I tagged them. But I didn't know they did a podcast.
I didn't either.
I won't. Yeah, see, and you do
Vortex.
podcasts.
Yeah.
But I don't listen to every podcast. But I follow them on social media, so maybe I would have seen something if they posted it. And maybe they did. I'm not saying that they didn't, and I'm not bashing them at all. But I'm talking about everybody in general. From somebody with 10 followers to somebody with 1 million followers.
Even the guy that's got,
and even the guy with 10 followers, he's an influencer. We're all influencers.
Everybody's an influencer. I actually hate that term, influencer, but
I hate it too.
So I've had companies reach out to me. Hey, we're reaching out to influencers like you to try to get sponsored. I'm like, dude, I don't even know your company, and I'm not an influencer. But everybody is an influencer.
I'm not sponsored,
and so
I'm
not a sponsored hunter. My podcast is sponsored. I always like to make that distinction. I am not a sponsored hunter. It's my podcast that gets sponsored.
Yeah. But so, like, being sponsored or not sponsored, I'm not sponsored, so I'll just say whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
And I've never, sought out to be sponsored, but the more that I see companies not getting behind us as hunters, it makes me not, if somebody even approached me, and be like, piss off. Because you know what, now I can't say something.
That whole mentality of this, and it's a new thing. It's not actually that new, but it is a growing trend among some of the larger corporations and these companies and these brands. I'm sick and tired of these brands ramming this marketing down our throats all the time, constantly trying to get our money. They're a business. That's what they're supposed to be doing. But I'm sick and tired of them hiding behind all of that and not standing up for stuff like this. And, and we talked about this before we started recording. I'm sick of having to have episodes like this where all we talk about is dealing with these anti-hunting, specifically the freaking Humane Society of the United States. I hate this organization, and we have got to do something about this organization. But I want to talk about...
Think about what would happen with, let's just take howlforwildlife.org.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just take that, right?
Yeah.
Let's just take that organization, Charles. Imagine if all those brands got behind him, or multiple companies like that. We could compete with the Humane Society.
That's exactly where I was driving that point. Is
they might be like, whoa, we don't want to poke that hornet's nest because how for wildlife.org,
it's controversial.
After us.
It's controversial, and I'm sick of these companies being afraid of taking on controversial things. You get our money. We spend a lot of money. I don't need thousands of dollars worth of camo to go hunting. I'll do it in a pair of jeans, but I like the fact that kind of stuff, and I'm not picking on like Scree or my sponsor or anything like that. I'm just saying in general, it is time for these companies to get a backbone and start taking a stand against these organizations that are against us and seek to destroy us, because it is that kind of the magnitude of money and funds we need to fight this lies within them, and they get that kind of money through the everyday hunter like us.
And if you and I can't hunt, I don't need their stuff.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. What happens to them?
So then I can sell all my stuff on Craigslist for whatever. Yep. I don't need it anymore because hunting is gone.
Hunting is gone, and there's even if it's just bear season, well, you could say, oh, well, it's just one season. It's just bear season is done. But think of there's two ways to look at that. First of all, what about the guys like you and me and the gals like you and me who are passionate about bear hunting? That's a big deal in our life. We shouldn't have to defend our life to people that have never done our lifestyle. This is America. We shouldn't have to defend it.
I always hear it's not going to happen in your lifetime.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
I hear that too. I hear that
it's
too.
not. It might not, but it's going to happen in my son's lifetime.
Yep.
And I want to. Sometimes my wife will give me crap about how much I'm scouting and stuff like that. She knows I'm going to go on hunting trips, but sometimes she get, and I don't blame her. But sometimes I'm like, hey, I give her the excuse, and it's not really an excuse; it's the truth. I want to become a better hunter so that when my son Henry is old enough to hunt, he gets to go out with his dad and be successful.
Yep.
Because I remember being on tons of trips with my family where we got nothing, and I still had fun. But the times we did get something, it was like, wow. I want my son to go to school and be like, me and my dad got this big bear. It's those types of memories I want to build with my son,
and
I want my son to be able to do that with his son or daughter.
And that aspect of hunting is what hunting is all about. Like my daughters got their first deer this year. Truly an amazing experience, and has made everything I've done as a hunter worth the time, money, and effort. And what are our generations after us going to think of us if we don't have a backbone and take a stand now? Because like what I was driving at earlier is I want to get guys like you on the show to talk hunting strategy and tell hunting stories, help teach from your experience, expand the knowledge of other hunters that are looking to get into it out there, or just have friendly hunting banter and share a few laughs and talk hunting in general. But instead, we find ourselves, and this is how it's been every winter now since I've had the show, instead we have to have these conversations that are highly contentious and get me all fired up to the point where I can't even talk straight.
I get there.
You know what I mean?
And almost every day for the last 5 days I've been in that.
And it's not even healthy. It's but I just want to have hunting conversations, but we have a fight.
And I don't post stuff on my Instagram like I made that controversial post. I took a ton of heat for it, but I had way more support for the post about, and it wasn't an attack on those companies when I posted it and tagged companies. And I pretty much tagged companies that I own something of theirs. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't an attack on them that, hey, you don't do anything to help us as a community. It was a question. And I think it's a fair question.
It is a fair question.
Where are you? Where are you
this?
Being vocally, not writing a check? I want to see a little bit of vocalism. One guy goes, it's not free. It's not free for them to post something. Okay, so be it. I'm
Spend a little money.
Sure the majority of those companies can afford it, It's probably even a tax write-off as advertisement.
What does that even mean? It's not free. What does that like? Make a post.
Oh, they got to
Make
pay somebody to post it and blah blah
okay.
blah. You know, it's an argument.
They're paying them to post stuff anyway. So let's get some involvement. Let's get some. We have to because how it looks right now, Seth, like from the anti-hunter fanatical, extremist perspective, is it looks like the little guy like you and I, the ones that just want to go hunting in the spring and hunting in the fall, it looks like we're on our own. We've isolated ourselves within the hunting community itself from all our little rivalries that we let get ugly, and our companies that we buy all our stuff from are silent. Everybody's working towards different goals here and there, and this is beating a dead horse on this show, but it's important stuff. And that's the perception that we're putting off, is we're just isolated and on our own, and we don't have the money, time, effort, and know-how to fight against the lobbying efforts of somebody like HSUS. That's what we've got to change. We've got to change.
And where I was going with that post was, or with bringing it up, is I don't enjoy posting about that.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of maybe this will open some eyeballs of maybe one of these companies will. Because when you tag somebody, it sends them the message and whatever. And I was just like, maybe it'll open one of their eyes. And, there are some companies out there that are speaking up, and have said something. And I applaud them. And when I go to buy new gear this year, or, a new piece of gear for my stuff, I'm going to look at them.
Just a thought with that, Seth, is like Howl for Wildlife and even my platform, the Western Huntsman, companies that do stand up and make a difference and help us in this fight should be like, I'm totally drawing a blank on the word. They should be known, like Howl for Wildlife, recognized. Gosh, that's what it was.
Well, and so the companies
like
that
put
have
it
been
out there,
saying something, or even influencers that have come out, somebody that's got a ton of followers, Cam Haynes has come out and reposted some of my stuff about Howl for Wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
Skullbound TV, Jana, she's reposted some of this stuff.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's huge. It's super
huge. They have 90,000 followers. Cam's got, I think he's got over 1 million. He might have a couple million.
Oh, I know.
Think
he's
about
got
how many eyeballs.
He went on Rogan a few times, and his Instagram went nuts, man. But but that's the kind of stuff. Let's recognize those companies, like Howl for Wildlife, companies that have actually stood up with a backbone. Here's a tab.
I see that, and I will repost it, and I try to put.
Me too.
Thank you, Cam Haynes. Thank you, Skullbound. Thank you, Cafaro. Thank you, Aaron Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to see that it's appreciated.
Cafaro is a company that needs to be recognized for that.
It's not going to go unnoticed.
Yep. No, exactly.
It's just it is irritating that some people just flat out do nothing, and
mm-hmm.
I'll let them explain why they don't. So.
Well, and that's both from hunters and from companies and brands. We're past the point where doing something is going to take a lot more than just simply buying a deer tag and thinking you're doing something for wildlife and conservation and the future of hunting and passing down. I hear this a lot. Protecting our heritage or passing on the heritage of hunting and. All these things and getting a $35 membership to the RMEF or something. It's all that is great, and I'm not saying that you need to stop doing that. And in fact, I promote doing more of that. But we're past a point in which that is enough if we want to have a future and have a generation that looks back on us and says, "Gee, I'm sure glad our grandfathers and great-grandfathers did this and grandmothers that did this and protected our future as hunters." Because where would we be today if our grandfathers and great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers didn't stand up in World War II and stop Hitler in Nazi Germany? Not that I am comparing the magnitude of the destruction of the two. So don't anybody email me and talk about how, nasty I am because I made that kind of comparison. Like, let's grow up. The comparison is very simple. we had people that protected our future. We need to protect our people's future. And that is just a generational thing that gets passed down. Each generation has their own fight. So that is important shit. And I'm sick of people not having a spine and a backbone, and I'm sick of brands not having a spine and a backbone and standing up and helping us with this, because if the people we're up against have a lot more resources than we do individually.
I had a guy make a comment of they have investors to protect. And I was like,
yeah.
Pretty sure we're the biggest investors.
Yeah, I don't care about your investors. Your investors would probably agree with it anyway. If they're investing in your company, they're not going to be a bunch of anti-hunting extremists. Yeah.
It's your customers that are your biggest investors.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I would rather much be on this podcast talking about, some awesome bear stories, like you say, but like it is going on right now, this is what's in front of us.
It is
and so if you donate to the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, great. Keep doing it. If you donate to the CDA, California Deer Association, great. Or, all these foundations are wonderful. But one thing you can do that's free, and you can donate if you can, but it's free, is go to Howl for Wildlife, sign up, send those petitions, or I don't know what the correct terminology is, if it's a petition or what. It's emails.
They're formulated emails that they insert your name and signature and all that kind of stuff in. It takes when I was recording with Chris McKelvey, he was talking, and in like 3 minutes I had all 4 of those petitions or emails sent in 3 minutes.
And it was free.
It was free.
And it probably does more than if you donate to the Rocky Mountain. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's
going to have
probably more productive than writing that check or whatever it is once a year to the foundation. Not that people need to stop doing that, but what I'm saying is, here's something that's in front of us. It's free.
They're different things.
Well, those guys, I think, I don't know exactly where. You don't know where your money's going.
And there's truth to that, but the missions are different anyway. Like the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, they're all about creating habitat and creating new elk populations and sustainability for elk, and same with the Mule Deer Foundation, things like that. That's a conservation aspect. The conservation aspect that we're talking about is protecting the future of hunting in a sense that we're fighting against the anti-hunting movement, and so it's not like a comparable thing, because the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, for example, they do things to protect the future of hunting, and that is part of what they're trying to go for. But their main bread and butter is the protection of habitat and preventing habitat loss and introducing elk in Kentucky and things like that. And it's all necessary. It's all necessary, and that's the thing about hunting, is it's so large in the spectrum of everything that goes into it. It's all encompassing. It's not just one thing. We got to protect habitat, but we also have to fight HSUS, and we also have to figure out how to unify hunters and quit ripping each other's throats out. We also have to figure out, all these things is the point. It's not just one thing. Well, and anyway,
we need to stop attacking each other.
We do.
For stupid stuff,
Yep. Totally agree.
Who cares what you wear, what you shoot, or how you hunt? If I see somebody's hunting rights getting attacked, even if it's something that I don't necessarily hunt species wise or whatever the case may be, I'm not going to support it, because I know they're going to come for something that I enjoy next.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to do a bait hunt this year, is I've never done it. And so I want to be able to relate to it. So that's one of the reasons I'm going to try it this year.
Yeah.
And in 2023, I'm going to try to do a hound hunt, with hounds.
Yeah. I've never done a hound hunt. Yeah. Not in that way.
I just want to be able to be like, what's my favorite? I already know that probably spot and stalking is my favorite, but that could change. I know that it's a rush. Everybody's like, oh man, running hounds is awesome.
Yeah.
And
it's
running hounds is the same thing as the baiting or the trail cam or whatever. They get to tree that bear and go, we can't, it's a sow. Or it's a sow with cubs. You're able to identify the animal rather than a a quick shot. Like, most cases in hunting are, it's usually a shit show, you know? And so
Yeah.
I want to be able to relate to all those
I love it.
different ways
I
of
love the
hunting.
baiting thing, man. It's fun because there's an art
What's your
form.
go-to? What's your go-to bait?
Okay, so that's what I was going to tell you. Like,
Let's
do
stop
yourself.
talking about all these assholes
Yeah,
that
yeah.
want to take shit from us.
Do yourself a favor.
Fuck those guys.
Fuck those guys. That's exactly.
And
the
let's talk
anti-hunters.
about something cool to end this thing on.
Do yourself a favor, man, and go to Batum907.com and get Jess Gann is the owner, and she is up in Alaska, and she's just like got this. I don't know where it comes from, but this very scientific brain whiz chemical thing going on where she has figured out like the science behind what triggers a bear's nose to come and check it out. And this stuff is you got to be careful when you have it because I mean I put it in my shop and that shit stunk up my entire shop for months. So I put it in these yellow containers. But anyway, Batum 907 has all sorts of different.
So does it smell bad?
No, it's a pleasant smell. It's a very sweet smell, but it's overpowering. So it's not a bad smell, but it is overpowering. And use one of your older packs to haul it in because you'll never get the smell out of your pack. And so you don't want that, stinking up on your elk hunt or something. But she's got powders to liquids to gels to sprays to this scent ball thing that you hang in a tree above your bait barrel. And like all my buddies around here that have more experience than me, they're like, oh yeah, I set my bait barrel up. I've only had one bear. I set one of those up with the Batum 907, and I'm not shitting you. I had 15 bears in the first 14 days I was there, and they were all over this thing. And
because of what'd you call it? The
Batum 907 stuff, and that the scent ball thing that comes with a
so
rope.
Is the scent ball something that releases like a
it's this
like a smoke into the air?
No,
or is it just something that just stinks?
She does have some of that, but this thing it looks like this giant bell. It's like bell shaped, and it looks like wax, and it just puts off this. I don't know if it's a subtle scent. Like when you hold it, it's not that stinky, but it comes with this plastic wrap. You take the wrap off, hang it in a tree like 15 feet, so the bears don't get it. Which they actually got mine.
Rub it on your clothes. You rub it on your clothes?
No, I don't. Nope. I hang it up. I do spray the bottom of my boots with some of the sprays that she has, and that was by her recommendation. But if you
sounds like it's good stuff then.
Dude, this stuff is amazing.
Bears. So one product that I was kind of curious about is made by Winscent. Have you heard of them?
No, I haven't heard that one.
So it looks like it's a product they make, and they make a ton of stuff too, but it looks like a giant vape pen. And you put this little thing in there, and it'll smoke little puffs of smoke either once every 3 minutes or once a minute, or it has a little key fob where you can do it as much as you want.
Oh,
and so it has this little smoke that goes up into the air. Well, here in California, we cannot bait. I've read the regulations. You cannot bait, and I have not asked a game warden, but in the regulations, it does talk about scents that go into the air like this and basically evaporate or do whatever. And it sounds like those are legal here.
Okay.
But you can't have something that you put on a rock or a stump, like smeared on there, something they can
like
eat.
Some tar.
Those are not legal in California. Yeah, you can't do that. But it sounds like maybe you can use this type of thing, which I'm going to talk to a game warden that
you should.
Every so
I would
often.
clarify
name,
that.
but,
like, how would they regulate a smoke?
Yeah, so if it's legal here, I kind of want to try it. The guy that I'm going to hunt with in Idaho, I asked him if he's ever used it, because you can hang it on a little string or rope and hang it in the tree. I think it goes a distance of like 30 or 40 yards from the little key fob thing. And I go, have you ever used this? He goes, dude, I've never. And he's been baiting for 13 years, I think. He goes, I've never thought about that. And I'm like, when you start to bait before I come up, I'll send it to you and just try it.
Yeah,
because
everything's worth a shot.
They only make one scent for bears. They do stuff for I think this is I think these guys come from the Midwest because they do stuff for like whitetail. But anyways, the scent one is donut for bears.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was just kind of curious if they work. I bought one. I haven't used it yet.
I've never tried one, man. I either put popcorn or dog food in the barrel, and then I cover it all in this Batum 907 product. Usually it's that powder stuff, and then I'll like cake the outside of the barrel with the tar, and then I hang the scent ball, and I spray the weeds or brush around the barrel with this other stuff that the bears, they come in and they step on it and they rub up against it, and then they drag it 4 miles off into the other direction, and that attracts other bears. So
so the bears get it on their feet.
Yep,
they walk off.
Yeah.
They track it. Another bear hits that trail and goes right
follows it. Yeah, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I've always heard donut oil, that they deep fry donuts.
Yeah, I've got buddies that use that. Yeah, I've got buddies that use that, and they've pastries and all sorts of stuff. But I mean, it looks like a giant stomach ache to me. Me too, man. Me too, totally. I'm one of those dudes. I get stuck on like when something works well for me, I stick with it. And this Batum 907. In fact, I ought to get Jess back on the show as we get closer to Spring Bear, because she's much better at articulating how this stuff works. But there is a promo code for you listening in the show notes. I don't get paid anything off it. It's just helping her out, and it gets you a discount. And I think it's Huntsman 10, but check the show notes, make sure. But that'll get you like 10% off if you guys want that Batum 907 stuff. But I love it. I'm going to get another big shipment in this spring for sure. Because
I'll have to ask the guy that I'm going to hunt with if he's ever heard of that stuff.
Well, there's another company that's Idaho based that a lot of hunters use here.
Four Masters.
Yeah, and I've never used it, but I'm sure it's pretty good too.
I think that's a lot of what he uses.
Yeah. I've got friends that use that swear by it.
I think they're down in Pocatello.
Yeah, they're somewhere down south, Idaho Falls, Pocatello, somewhere down there. Or maybe it's Twin Falls. I can't remember, but pretty sure the owner, he's a good dude. And for me, it's all relationship. This Jess up in Alaska, she's a friend of mine, introduced through the podcast, and stuff works great for me. I'll stick with that, but I don't have any problem with anybody running a Boar Master either.
I think that's probably the best thing that I've gotten out of social media is friendships.
Oh, me too. It's the best
bonds that I've made with other hunters. Some of them whom I've never met.
Yeah. For sure.
And now we chat all the time.
It's the same with doing this podcast, man.
Some of us have plans to hunt with each other. So that's probably, and the other thing that I like is I'm not a pro hunter and stuff like that, but I've had a ton of people, not a ton, but I've had, people message me and be like, thank you so much. I never thought about hunting bears. Or I've never been successful hunting bears. I had a couple guys hit me up this year and be like, thanks to you and the stuff that you posted about and bear sign to look for, I was able to harvest my first bear. That shit tugs at my heartstrings. I'm like, this is why I do this.
No,
this is
great,
why
man.
I waste time and get yelled at by my wife and, and should be working harder at work is for comments and messages like that.
I know. I know exactly how you feel, man. And I love every time I get put a new episode out, it usually means that I have a new friend, and it's whoever I had on with me. And it's my favorite part of doing this show. So yeah, no, man, Seth, this has been awesome. This has been an awesome talk. I'd like to, you need to be like one of the regulars, dude. Can we talk about bringing you back on sometime in like end of March, right before Spring Bear kicks off, to motivate a lot of bear hunters out there and give us some more tips and tactics and things like that?
Yeah, that, or you can, or we can chat after my hunt in Idaho.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Which I'm going out there second weekend of May.
Perfect. That's a great time to be in Idaho, man. You going south, central, or north Idaho?
I'm going southeast.
Southeast, cool, man. Well, keep me posted on that. I know we've gone pretty long here, so I appreciate your time and you coming on. And great message. I think we're gonna ruffle some feathers and also wake some people up. That's the way I like it.
Controversy sells, man.
It does. It does.
Absolutely. And sometimes you hate to be the one that brings it up and stir and pokes that hornet's nest or whatever. But at the end of the day, if it opens people's eyes and brings attention to whatever's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is, and it's usually a good thing.
I don't know if you agree with this or not, but my observation is, Seth, that a lot of hunters are waking up, and a lot of hunters are starting to get the message and get involved. They're starting to get fired up. They're sick of being silent. They're sick of being the silent majority that gets beat up around, from all these anti-hunting organizations and made to look like they're just a bunch of murdering hunters and blah 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 and protecting their future and their hunters. I feel like hunters are waking up.
Well, and that's the power of social media.
Yep.
The good power. If we would have had social media like this, and when they were taking away hound hunting here in California, I just think way more people would have known about it.
Yeah,
I never knew about it.
Sure.
I never knew.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything was going on.
Yeah, it was probably a 2-sentence blurb in the newspaper. And so we've got an opportunity here. There's people like you, there's people like me that have podcasts, there's people with big followings and people with small followings, and we have an opportunity to put all this together and make an impact. And I feel like we're just scratching the surface, and I'm noticing more people are getting involved, more people are listening to shows like this episode in particular. I'm getting messages where people are like, well, I love the message, but I'm ready to, listen to some hunting tips and strategies and stories and stuff like that. I get that, and we're going to get there, but we have to protect this first.
When we talk again in May,
mm-hmm.
We'll have an episode of, because I'm going to kill something. I'm just going to go on the record and I'm just going to say
you ought to just notch your tag.
I'll probably jinx myself.
Just notch your tag right now, dude. It's a done deal.
But we'll just talk about only that hunt. What we did, what we baited with, what time of day we went in, what time of day we went out.
I love it.
We'll talk just about that. We don't have to talk about the rest of these buttheads that just want to take things from people.
I dig it, man. Well, Seth, I appreciate it. Like I said, great conversation. Thanks for your time. It's people like you willing to take an hour and a half, 2 hours out of your day and talk to a nerd like me and get this information out there and have these talks. I do, man. I believe this is what's making a difference, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you hitting me up and having me on, man. Anytime.
All right, brother. Your Instagram and again, Howl for Wildlife will be in the show notes, folks. Check out Seth's Instagram. It's a really good one. That's why you have a ton of followers on there. You post really good stuff, man. I appreciate that. And we'll talk soon.
All right, man.
You made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. We sure appreciate your support. This is Jim Huntsman signing off and reminding you to check us out at Instagram at The Western Huntsman and on Facebook at The Western Huntsman. And you can also check out the website at thewesternhuntsman.com. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.